in, year out. He never sets foot in church. And when he comes down here once a year with that heavy stick of his, everyone is afraid of him and keeps out of his way. With his bushy grey eyebrows and his frightful beard, he looks so like a wild man that people hope they won't meet him alone. Just the same, insisted Dete. He is the grandfather, and he has to take care of the child. He won't hurt her. Anyhow, I'm through. I certainly would like to know, Barbel speculated, what that old man has on his conscience. He always looks around so suspiciously, and he lives all alone up there on the arm, hiding like a hermit. People say all sorts of queer things about him, but you must know the truth from your sister, don't you, Dete? Yes, but I'm not telling, because if he ever thought I had said anything, I'd get what for. But Barbel had long wanted to know why the arm-uncle had lived alone on the mountain-top, and why people spoke so cautiously about him, as if they could not say anything favourable, and would not speak against him. Neither did Barbel know why everybody in Dorfli called the old man Arm-Uncle. He could not be the real uncle of all the inhabitants, but as they always called him so, she did too. Because Barbel had been married only a short time, and had come from the village of Prattigau after her wedding, she did not yet know all the ins and outs of life in Dorfli, nor the peculiarities of the people there or in the region. Her good friend Dete, however, had been born in Dorfli, and had lived there until her mother's death. Then she had gone to Ragazbad to work in the big hotel as chambermaid at very good pay. That very morning Dete had come with the child from Ragaz. A friend had given them a ride in his hay-cart as far as Mayenfeld. Barbel longed to learn a little more. She laid her hand confidentially on her friend's arm, saying, "Dete, you can tell me the real truth about the arm-uncle. I don't believe half that people here say. Do tell me, what's wrong with the old man? And has everyone always been afraid of him? Has he always seemed to hate his fellow beings as he does now?" "Whether he has always been like this I can't say, since I'm just 26 years old and he is at least 70, so don't ask me to tell you how he was when he was young. If I could only be sure that what I tell you wouldn't be spread around in Prattigau, I might give you an earful. My mother and he both came from Domleschg." "Oh, Dete," replied Barbel reproachfully. "What do you mean? We aren't all blabbermouths in Prattigau, after all. I can keep a secret if necessary. So go on and tell me, do. You won't be sorry." "Well, I will. But mind you keep your word," Dete warned. She looked back to see if the child were near enough to overhear what they said, but Heidi was nowhere in sight. She had ceased following some time earlier, but they had been too busy talking to notice her absence. Dete stopped and looked about in every direction. The path made 1 or 2 curves, but yet the eye could follow it almost down to Dorfli. There was no one visible for its whole length. "I see her now," exclaimed Barbel. "Down there, don't you see her?" And she pointed to a spot quite distant from the mountain path. "She is climbing up the cliff with Peter the goatherd and his flock. I wonder why he is so late today. It is lucky for us, for you can go on with your story while he looks after the child." "Peter won't need to put himself out much looking after her," said Dete. "She uses her own eyes and sees everything that goes on. I have found that out, and it's good that she is bright. The old man never will be able to provide much for her. All he has are his 2 goats and the arm hut." "Did he ever have more?" asked Barbel. "Oh, my, yes," replied Dete emphatically. "He used to have the very best farm in Domleschg. He was the eldest son, and had only one brother who was quiet and steady. But Arm-Uncle was a playboy and ran around with bad company. He gambled away every bit of his property, and when they found out, his father and then his mother died of mortification. His brother had nothing, of course, and he moved away somewhere out of humiliation. And since Arm-Uncle had nothing left but a bad name, he disappeared. At first, no one knew where he had gone, but after a while the word went around that he had joined the army and gone to Naples. Then nobody heard anything for 12 years or more. All at once he showed up in Domleschg with a half-grown boy and tried to get his kinfolks to take them in. When he found every door closed against him, he became embittered and swore he would never set foot in Domleschg again. So he came to Dorfli. He lived here with his boy. Maybe he still had a little money because he gave Tobias, his son, a trade. Tobias was a nice fellow, a carpenter, and well liked by everyone in Dorfli. But nobody trusted the old man. People said that he had deserted from Naples, got in a brawl, and killed someone. But anyhow, we recognized the relationship, because my great-grandmother and his mother were sisters, so we called him Uncle. Since we are related to everybody in Dorfli on our father's side, gradually everybody called him Uncle, and when he moved on the arm, everyone called him Arm Uncle. "But what happened to Tobias?" said Barbel eagerly. "Wait, I'm coming to that. I can't tell you everything at once. Tobias went to learn his trade in Mels, and when he finished he returned to Dorfli and married my sister, Adelheid, whom he had always liked. They got along fine, but 2 years later, as Tobias was helping build a house, a beam fell on him and killed him. The shock and sorrow gave Adelheid a fever from which she never recovered. Strong and hearty as she had been, she went into a coma, so that you could not tell if she were waking or asleep. 2 months after Tobias's death, we buried Adelheid. Everybody talked about the sad fate of this couple, and they said that it was a judgment on the uncle for his godless life. Our pastor, appealing to his conscience, told him that he should come to church, but he just glowered and spoke to no one. Finally, everyone avoided him. Next we heard he had gone up to the arm. Never coming down, he lived withdrawn from God and man. When Mother and I took Adelheid's little girl, Heidi, to live with us, she was a year old. Then, after Mother died, I decided to go to the baths to work. I boarded Heidi at old Ursul's in Pfafferserdorf. I was able to stay at the baths all winter, for there was plenty of sewing and mending for me to do. As I told you, the family I worked for last year came back from Frankfurt early this spring, and they still want to take me back with them. I am going, day after tomorrow, and it's a fine job, believe me." "And you'll leave that child up there with the old man? I can't understand what you are thinking of, Dete." Barbel shook her head reproachfully. "What do you mean?" snapped Dete. "I've done my share for the child, and what else can I do? I can't drag along a 5-year-old to Frankfurt with me. Now, where are you going, Barbel? Here we are already halfway up the arm." "I've reached the place I want," said Barbel. "I have to speak to the mother of Peter, the goat-herd. She spins for me in the winter. So goodbye, Dete. Good luck to you." Dete shook hands with her companion. She stood watching Barbel go toward the small, dark-brown cottage which stood a little way off the main path. Built in a sheltered hollow halfway up the arm, the house was so ramshackle and weather-beaten that, exposed to the fierce mountain winds, it seemed a dangerous dwelling. Indeed, it looked as if it might be swept down into the valley at any time. Here lived Peter, the 11-year-old boy whose business it was to drive the goats from Dorfli every morning up on the arm to let them crop the short, succulent bushes that grew there. In the evening he led his nimble-footed herd down into Dorfli again and gave a shrill whistle on his fingers as a signal to the owners to come to the little square and get their goats. Usually little boys and girls came for the animals, for such gentle creatures could do them no harm. All summer long this was the only time of day when Peter was with young companions. All the rest of the time he spent alone with his goats. To be sure, he had the company of his mother and his blind grandmother, but he left the hut early in the morning and returned late from Dorfli. Because he wanted to play with the children as long as possible, he spent only enough time at home to swallow his bread and milk. His father, who also had been called Goat Peter, had been killed while felling trees the year before. His mother, whose name was Brigitte,